If before you invested your $10,000, you knew that the same possibility of losing your $10,000 existed, but the government came in and said that there will be a certain limit on the amount of return you could receive from that $10,000. What limit would you accept for your $10,000 and still invest it? If you could only receive $1,000 back, 10%, would you invest that $10,000 knowing full well that you could lose the full $10,000 but you could only gain an additional $1,000? What about 50%? That's a pretty good return. But if you invested $10,000 knowing full well that you could lose it, and somebody told you you could only ever gain back $15,000 of it, off of it, would you do it? What limit would you accept? If your product that you had invested in revolutionized the world and became the hottest selling item on the market, people everywhere were benefiting from your product, would you accept a limit? If your $10,000 had spawned a product that changed the world, and all of a sudden hundreds or millions of dollars or hundreds of millions of dollars had been made off of your product, would you feel right about being shut out of any additional profits? If you were to receive an equal portion of the profits relative to your investment, and that would make your profits something like $100,000 or $200,000 off of your $10,000 investment, which would be a 10-fold or 20-fold return. We're talking about 2,000% rate of return, or 1,000% rate of return. Would you allow that limitation to be set up on you? I would not accept any limitation. And so, in fact, this is what happens with the large businesses. There's no way one person could come together and give all the money needed to research a new pharmaceutical product. There's no way one person could come together and provide all the money needed to start an oil company. So they gather up money from investors, and they start this company, and they name a CEO. And those investors are people just like me and you. They've got some money. They want to do something with it that will allow them to live an easier life. Now, we may think these are all rich individuals. Excuse me, I'm going to check my time right quick. We may think these are all rich individuals that have nothing better to do with their money, but in fact, you and I are the investors in these companies in a great deal in the form of hedge funds and mutual funds. And then we in turn invest in those funds through things like our 401k and savings and investment accounts. The oil companies, we all hear about the obscene profits they make. And they made something like $40 billion last year. If you believe that, and I assume a lot of you do, you can read it in the same article that revenue for that company was approximately $400 billion. That means they invested $360 billion, and I'm sorry, that means they invested, yes, $360 billion and received a return of $400 billion. Is there any way that you could expect somebody to put up $360 billion and expect to put a limit on how much they could return on that investment and still expect people to put the money up? Of course not. You wouldn't accept a limit on your $10,000. And what I mentioned earlier about the margin of 2%, I read in an unrelated article that if people would inflate their tires to the proper air pressure, we could save enough gas mileage to reduce world demand by 2% and crash the oil markets. The oil companies have put up $360 billion at the risk of 2% being off one way or the other on demand, being able to put them under and crash the oil markets to where they would have massive layoffs and things of this nature. How do we expect to put a limit on what they can earn and still expect them to put that type of money up? We'll continue in the next post.